what is going on here? This could cost me thousands. Hey guys, welcome back to Exotic Car DIY. Check out the shop. We now have a shop full of cars, which is really cool, especially if you like to work on cars, because that means there's going to be a lot of videos. So I promise there's going to be Blazer videos, Ferrari videos, Jeep videos, and this one is about the Mercedes. So I just got back literally last night from picking this thing up. Got back at 3 in the morning. Had to work at 5 in the morning. All I've done is wash it, and now we're ready to get it back on the lift so I can check out what's going on. So yes, I sold my silver one, and a lot of you guys were upset about that. I was upset about that. But it just made financial sense at that time. So I had a 6-7 month period there where I could buy any car I wanted. I was looking at CTSVs, W213s. I was looking at, Alphas, RS7s, all different kinds of cars, and ultimately I came back to the W212 E63 because it's just such a great platform. So anyway, we'll talk about that more in a second. Just like you saw in my last video with the 430, I like to do a baseline when I get cars. That means that when I get them, I like to kind of reset everything to zero. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get this on the lift and find everything that it needs. So if there are any broken trim pieces, any scratches, anything that needs to be addressed, we're going to fix it right away. 2, we're going to go through the maintenance stuff. So I don't trust anything that the dealer says, especially not this stupid dealer I bought it from out in Houston or whatever. They said they did an oil change. I highly doubt that. Luckily, the Carfax shows that it has had regular oil changes. So as far as being mechanically sound, I'm very confident in the car. But what I like to do is go through and just start everything over. So we're going to go through and do oil change, transmission fluid change, gear oil change, maybe even coolant flush. We're going to inspect all those things and get it up to a standard because it's my baby now. I'm going to daily drive this thing. 2, we're going to talk about some mods. I got a lot of things I want to do to this car. But 3, I got to catch it up to where the other one was. So we need to do the exhaust mod that you saw in my other video. We need to do the ambient light kit install. I need to code the headlights for ILS, do all the other coding things I needed done in this. Hopefully there'll be a lot more coding videos coming up because that's a really fun thing you can do. Anyway, let's go and get this on the lift and get things started. All right, now that we got it on the lift, we can take a look underneath. And I already kind of peeked at this on the way over here. Very clean looking car. I mean, for the most part, there's really no scratch. It's not maybe as clean as my one that had 10,000 miles on it, but for a car of 46,000 miles, I can't complain. All right, so the car's got bone stock exhaust. There's no damage underneath. The rear tires are brand spanking new tires. No leaks from the shocks, no leaks anywhere at all, no oil dripping. Definitely a little bit dirty, got some inner wear, so I'll probably need to do an alignment. Luckily, I got a video for that. Yeah, overall, pretty clean. One thing I've noticed right here in the walk around is this guy. So this right here is probably the most common failure on the E63. This is the bushing. It's always the driver's side, and it always fails. And the reason is because they put this weird split bushing in there, so it just doesn't hold very well. And somehow it always works its way out. So the symptoms of this are squeaking and, kind of a humming sound just because you got metal on metal right here. All right, now back up here on top of the motor. To finish off the inspection, this is probably one of the most critical things you can check, especially if you're looking for a used E63 or if you have one, is the camshaft magnets and position sensors. They're really easy to check, and they're probably one of the most expensive failures on here. What happens is they leak oil internally, and when they do that, the oil actually wicks into the harness, and it can actually fairly quickly travel to the ECU, mess all kinds of stuff up. The dealer wants to either replace like your wiring harness for like $8 grand and your ECU. So checking it and staying on top of that is probably one of the most best things you can do for these. So they're really easy to check. There's 4 sensors on either side that we're going to check. All you got to do is pop off these covers, pop off the intake tubes, and then get some kind of pick. Usually the hook works easy. All right, so here are your magnets. These control the timing, and then your sensors are here and here. To get them off, push the gray clip backwards, and then use the hook and just kind of lift up on the tab as you pull back. And then you can kind of just check them for oil. And it'll be pretty obvious if one is wrong. So this one looks dry. All right, and then we'll unplug this one too. All right, well, you can actually see that that is oil on there. So this has the potential of messing up some stuff big time. So, all right, so we found some oil in our harness. The next thing we need to check is the ECU, which luckily only takes like 10 seconds. Grab the ECU, pull up, pull off the connectors, then we cross our fingers. All right, so we are completely dry. There is no evidence of oil. You actually see oil on the pins, and it'll actually get into the ECU. We can actually look at the connectors, and they're looking perfectly dry. Okay, so good. It's not to the ECU yet, so it is actually kind of normal to get oil in there. The problem is when that oil does make it all the way through the harness and soak your whole harness and your ECU, that's when you have huge problems, huge bills. I think a couple people were quoted like 7 or 8 grand to do this, and it can mess up a lot of other stuff too. So what we're gonna do, how to fix this. So that's gonna be like priority 1 is replace. Well, we have to replace the ones that are leaking. I'm going to go ahead and replace everything. So all 4 camshaft position sensors and all 4 magnets are going to get replaced, and then we'll just use some connector cleaner to clean up any of the connectors, and that'll save us. Anyway, that'll come up in probably one of my next videos, and in the meantime, let's get back to finishing up this car. Now we can pull off the wheel. All right, now we got the wheel on the balancer. We're gonna just double check that all these wheels are straight. All right, now we got the front right here. 2 things I've always found to be true on Mercedes wheels is 1, you're always gonna have a little bit of wear on the inside, and 2, they're always gonna be slightly bent. Well, I think there's our answer right there. We got 1, 2, 3 cracks in one of the front rims. Well, I guess that means I'm going to be shopping for some aftermarket rims here shortly. Dang it. Inside, the only thing I really found wrong is this trim piece is broken. Alright guys, so we've had the E63 on the lift for a couple hours now. I've been able to fully go through it. So what is the verdict? Remember, I bought this one in particular because it was a unique spec car. That was the goal, is to find something unique. And so the red is not a color that you see. In fact, I've only seen 2 for sale in the last 3 years. So I could not be very picky. Otherwise, I probably would have never gone to this dealership and bought it from them. But anyway, so the bones are good, the things you can't change. So it has all original paint with really no dings or scratches on it. 2, it's accident free. I found no evidence that it's been wrecked in any way, shape, or form. And then 3, it's bone stock. And those are the 3 main things that I was looking for in this car, and it checks all those boxes. So it does have a few things wrong with it. We found some broken trim pieces. We found that control arm, but then we found 2 other big things. So A, there was oil in one of those sensors, and luckily we caught that in its infancy. It just seems to be isolated to the sensor, has not traveled to the ECU, so we caught that in plenty of time to correct it fine. And then 3, the kind of annoying one, is the wheels. 3 of the rims are bent, and one of them has 3 cracks and won't hold air, which kind of sucks because these otherwise are near perfect. Not a single one of them's curved. There's no scratches in the paint. So I guess that's really frustrating. So I'm not sure what to do. You can either get them repaired, or we can go aftermarket, or just replace them. I haven't really figured out what to do there. And I think the frustrating thing is they knew about this. So that tire lost 5 PSI a day, and they had the car for over 2 months. That means they probably had to fill up that tire 5 times completely flat to the ground. And so the way I think they knew about it is if you look at the Carfax, they noted on there, A, that the tires have been repaired, and I went through, not a single one of these tires has a patch in it. So they knew it leaked and they didn't fix it. They're actually pretty consistent with that because it says they replaced the piece of trim, and we still found that piece of trim was broken. And 3, it says that they changed the oil, and that oil was black when it came out of the car. That is not what the oil is supposed to look like after 600 miles. So I think they saw all those things, put it on the Carfax, and then decided not to fix it. So I'm not sure if there's any reparations that can be made there or not. So my goal here is to get this car perfect and up to my spec, and we're going to start with the maintenance. So let's get it back in the lift. We're going to fix that control arm. We're going to do the oil, gear oil, and air filters. If you want to see videos on any of that, I got links all in my description. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. The control arm has slid off the bushing. Now the metal is now contacting part of the subframe right here. So here's the thing. You can replace with another Mercedes part, but they're just junk. They absolutely don't last. So there is an aftermarket option. I think Rock Auto sells it for like 50 bucks. Probably going to try that. But in the meantime, we're going to fix this for free just by welding it. What happens is, because the bushing is 2 parts, it just like slides out of its place. It's not really a bad bushing per se. So I'm going to press it back into place, tack welded on either side, and that should keep it centered. That's free, and it actually worked great on every other Mercedes I've done that to. All right, so now we're gonna just repair the control arm. So same instructions whether you're replacing it or repairing it. We gotta take it off. The 2 bolts here and here. So I just tapped it on there, and all I gotta do is just tighten this down, and eventually it'll just pop it. Now, if it doesn't pop after it's getting really, you can take one of those blue propane tanks and kind of warm up the outside, and it'll pop. There she goes. Good night. That kind of scared me. She's out. Now you may notice with it unloaded, it points straight. That's because when you tighten this bolt right here, you're supposed to tighten it with the weight on the car. So we can kind of do the same concept by tightening it when it's in this position again. So let's go ahead and loosen this guy off. And before you remove it, just pop off the suspension height sensor. Usually just comes off with a little wiggling. All right, so off the car you can kind of see what's wrong. So basically, because they use this kind of C-shaped thing, it just doesn't hold it in place. So it's slid over there, and you can actually see it's been contacting part of the suburban for a long time. So that's causing squeaks, that's transferring vibrations, all kinds of stuff. And I guarantee every single E63 has this at some point, even if you replace it. So what I'm going to do is just use my Harbor Freight press to press it back dead center to where it was, and then we're going to tack it so it doesn't fall out, because the bushing is actually still good. So as you can see, it moves very easily back into place, and the reason is just because it's not very tight. This is not a very strongly pressed, fitting. So we're just going to go all the way up to the old line. So now we can take a look at that. So now we're basically dead center. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a tack there and a tack there, and now it won't be able to shift side to side. Now we get to do one of my most favorite activities, welding outside in the humidity in flip-flops. All right, now that I've impressed you with my amazing welding skills, you can see what we did here. I just kind of put two simple tacks on either side. They're nothing fancy. In fact, they're kind of ugly. But what they're going to do is they're just going to hold that dead center. So anytime this bushing tries to go from side to side, those tacks should be all it needs to stay in place. In the meantime, I will order the aftermarket replacement for this, because that'll be my next attempt if this guy fails. All right, so you can see that I have it at a 90-degree angle as if the car was fully loaded. We can go ahead and torque this down. And then lastly, don't forget to hook up your headlight sensor. And there you go, guys. I'm a bit anal, but I always like to pour a little bit of super clean oil down there just to kind of flush it back out. Put this into place, and now under the car, we're going to do the rear differential fluid. Replace the plug and fill her up. Now we're going to do air filters. You'll notice I went BMC filters this time instead of OEM, and well, that's because I'm a champion, right? At least my mom told me so. All right, now with the oil and the suspension taken care of, it's time to take care of these headlights and activate some ILS. So if you guys want to know how to do it, just check out my video on doing this, but it's probably the most amazing feature on any car with adaptive headlights, especially the Mercedes. These headlights are amazing. Just check out these clips. All right. Power up our laptop here. Time to open up Vidimo and code this boy. All right, guys, so we got the car hooked up, CBF files loaded, and I am literally watching my own video of how I did this. So you would not believe how many times I reference my own videos to figure out how to do things. So anyway, let's go ahead and go through the coding list and get these ILS headlights activated. All right, so car has been coded, and it shouldn't beep anymore either, so let's see. There you go. No seatbelt beep, Lights move fine. So now let's go over to lights, intelligent light system. Click OK to activate. Boom. All right. We're all ready.